All right, now it's recording.
That's good. Good to know. Good to know.
All right, so man, how do I even start this? It's like I've been trying to do this for so long before. Watch this. So I have these little pads have little sounds in them, but I still don't know what the name of the podcast is gonna be. I think I'm gonna call it Second City Life, just podcast. Because I think Second City is pretty general. It can mean anything.
And I like the name though, Second City. I mean, when you came up with it, you know what I mean? When I see in photography, I'm like, that's a great name too. So
dude, you don't understand how long it took me to come up with that name. I used to have a name called Creative Nights. That's the first one that I ever had. But it was more like graphic design work, not so much photography. But then it blew up. I actually had a lot of followers with that, but I had to nix it because it's just not what I want. You want that name recognition,
yeah,
right?
right, yeah.
So and then I went through, and I do have another one, Headshot Emporium, but that's obviously just headshots, so very general. So when I started doing the sports photography with the baseball teams, that's when I thought, all right, it's got to be something related to the city, but yet general enough where I can do anything. It doesn't have to be just sports, right?
Makes sense, yeah.
So I was like, all right, Second City Life, Second City Sports. I'm like, Second City Life, I went with it. Now I'm like, I couldn't give it up.
Exactly. A lot of people know you now.
Yeah, what I mean? He's like Second City Life this, Second City Life that. I'm like, yeah.
You see a lot more posts in Facebook. There's a lot of sharing and stuff like that. That's an awesome thing, man. That's why I was actually glad that you actually came on board and stuff like that and started following your passion and follow the Orioles. You know what I mean? So, a lot of videos. People were hating the videos of the Orioles. I
was like, should I put on the Orioles jersey? It's like, nah, because I want him to come wear it, and then all of a sudden be like, man, see, I knew it. I knew he's an Oriole. He's an Oriole. Guys, I'm not an Oriole. I love the Orioles. I root for the Orioles. I want the Orioles to win.
There you go.
And we'll leave it at that. But we'll get started. So just tell me who you are. Tell the audience who you are. Mention what team you coach, and tell us a little bit about who you are.
All right. Well, my name is Alex Herrera. I grew up playing baseball. We have a big family. The Herrera side of the family that's well known in baseball. I started playing baseball in Little Village, you know what I mean, with a lot of my cousins. And one thing that you don't know about us, we're a huge family. So I grew up playing with my cousins. My brother, who's also a coach for the Orioles, he grew up playing with his age group too, and it's just full of cousins. So we literally, when we played baseball, it was a team with just Herrera, you know what I mean? And, we fell in love with the sport. Our dad loved the game. You know what I mean? We're big Southsiders, Sox fans. Unfortunately, I don't know what happened with my older brother. He's a Cubs fan, but hey, you know what? I'm not going to hold it against him.
No Cubs fans allowed here. I'm a White Sox fan myself.
But either way, you know what I mean? We grew up playing the sport. And the thing that I like about it is we had a bond with my father. You know what I mean? That kind of brought us a little closer together. And I always said, if I start having kids, I'm going to introduce them to the sport of baseball, and that's exactly what I did. I have 3 kids right now. Giovanni's the oldest. He's 21. He actually played for Plainfield South and went to Calumet College and played for a year. But, he got burned out and stuff like that. But now he's playing for the Orioles, just the Orioles, you know what I mean?
Just the Orioles?
Yeah. But, growing up, it's just I used to love teaching them the game, and I fell in love with it, I got into coaching because, to be quite honest with you, it was more like, all right, I want to sign up my kids, see how they do. And when I'm working with my kids on the side, you get a couple of the parents, say, you know what you're doing, you want to help. Then I started helping. Then they started asking me to have my own team, and so on and so on. And it just grew, and just the passion's still there. I mean, my biggest thing, and one thing that I preach about the Orioles is, kind of respect, but then also kind of a family atmosphere, and you've seen it firsthand, you know what I mean? A lot of my 2 sons, they play for me.
Yeah.
They go at it sometimes, and it's funny, but you know what? We all love each other, man, and that's all it's about, you know what I mean? So
I mean, you look fairly young. Mm-hmm. So you can't be not too much older than me. I'm 30. I'm 34.
So you're younger than I am. Yeah. So I'm 40.
I'm getting there. So I'll be 35 in December. So that'll put me right over. It's like, might as well be 40 at that point. But I know you have your kids. You got kids. Obviously we're in college. Mm-hmm. How old were they? How old were you when you had your kids?
So that was a big life experience. I was 18 years old. you know, when I went to school. I met my ex-wife in college, and you know, one thing led to another. You know, we were supposed to do a project. You know what I mean? So we went.
What project were you doing?
Exactly, home project that led to something else. You know, she got pregnant. You know what I mean? And we had Gio, and the rest is history. But you know what? Being a young father, I think prepared me for, you know, real life lessons. You know what I mean? I had to grow up at a young age, you know what I mean? Especially because I was going to school full time still, working full time, and, you know, raising a child, you know what I mean? And I think the good thing about being a young father, you know what I mean? You're able to be more active with your kids, you know what I mean? And even to this day, you know, we're only about 20 years apart, me and my son. And, you know, we can relate to a lot of things, you know what I mean? Because we're closer of age, you know, but that's one thing. I mean, to me, I didn't think of it as, I thought about it as a blessing, being a young father, you know what I mean? But, you know, it's how you grow up. You know, I had great parents, you know what I mean? And they taught me, hey, you know what? This is your responsibility. This is what you did. You know, you got to be a good father. And I preach to this day, man, and I try to be there for my kids as much as possible. They're not always going to do what you want them to do. They're going to pick their own path. But the best thing you do is just be there and support them in their dreams and their wishes, you know?
So do you remember, how did it feel? What was that first emotion, the first feeling when you found out, hey, I'm about to be a dad and I'm 18 years old?
First of all, I was nervous. You know what I mean? Because when she told me, first and foremost, I'm not going to say that she trapped me, but here's a story. I'm going to go quick with the story, right?
Okay, it's story time.
Exactly, right? So when me and her got together, you know what I mean? I asked her if she was on birth control. Of course, any man is going to ask, you know what I mean, and find out, you know what, let's find out if I could go without a condom, you know what I mean?
Right.
So she's like, you know what, I'm on birth control. So the first time that I've ever did anything without being protected, and look what happens, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, I asked her, I'm like, I think you tried to trap me, you know? I think that was your whole case. But no, you know what? At the end of the day, she said, you know what, she was on the pill. She might have forgot to take it or something, and it happens, you know? But my first reaction was like, okay, what am I going to do? How am I going to tell my parents? You know what I mean? I've never met her parents. You know what I mean? We weren't necessarily dating. You know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, there was a lot of things that were going through my mind. I'm like, all right, am I going to be with this girl? You know what I mean? How am I going to tell my parents? But you know what? I cared for her. And, you know, anybody that grew up in a Hispanic, Latino family, man, they understand, you know what? That's what you did. You're going to have to start trying to have a family, trying to do whatever you can. So one of the biggest things that my dad taught me, right? You know, after I told my parents, you know, and it was a tough situation, I was in my room. I called my mom and my dad over, and I was sitting in the edge of my bed. And my ex-wife, well, the mother of my kids, wasn't there, but I was there. I'm like, you know what? I got to tell him. So when I started talking to him about it, I'm like, look, you know, my friend is pregnant. My mom started crying. What did we do wrong? You know, this and that. And my dad was just in shock. You know what I mean? And he goes, you know what? That's you. Now you got to deal with the responsibilities that come with it. You know what I mean? And that's the best advice I could have gotten, you know, because at the end of the day, I felt the support from them. But at the same time, now you got to become a man. Now, This is a choice that you made, you know? So the next step, I said, okay, I got to go talk to her parents, you know? So I talked to her mom and her stepdad. And the first question that comes up, what are you guys going to do for money? I said, well, this is our goal. We're both going to finish school. We're going to work and, you know, see where it goes. And that's what we did. It wasn't easy. It was tough, you know what I mean? Trying to go to work, first of all, going to school in the morning, right? Getting out at 2, then going straight to work, you know, and then coming home and then getting a couple hours of sleep. The baby's waking up in the middle of the night. You know, it's tough. You know what I mean? Right. It's not for everyone, but I think that kind of prepared me for life. It made everything's a lot easier as I got older. Right. You know what I mean? Because if you could go through that, you know what I mean? With anybody that's a young parent, if you could go through that and manage that, I think you'll be set for success, I think, personally.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people who think that it's so frowned upon to have kids at a young age, because yes, you're young, you're not experienced, you're not even an adult just quite yet. You know, we're 18, but we're just not there. Especially us guys, they say we mature a little bit later, right? And you have to be a little bit older. But if you think about it, I think I've seen a lot more people who have waited to be in their 30s, to be, you know, I want to have my house, I want to have my career, and then I want to have a child. And then they have a child and they don't know how to deal with it. Yeah. They're like, oh my God, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? I'm like, but to me, I think it was more like, it's common sense. Like it's child, and then obviously, like we said, going back to our being Hispanic, because I was in the same situation. I had my son when I was 18, and it forced you to grow up. And it didn't steal a lot of my life away the way I see it, because like now I think about it, I'm 34 years old. We probably were, the same age when we both had our kids, right? And now we get to enjoy them.
Yeah,
right.
That's perfectly said, because at the end of the day, I'm 40 and my youngest is 11, but they're all grown. I can enjoy my life. And a lot of people don't understand that. Like, you wait till you're 30 years old and you start having kids and stuff like that. Yeah, you enjoyed your life in the beginning, but it's a lot harder to be a parent. When you're a parent at a young age, you know what I mean? You have to deal with so many obstacles. You know what I mean? If you overcome those obstacles, it makes you a stronger person. Absolutely. That's my personal opinion.
No, and I'm all for it, because it's like I could not picture myself being in my 40s, trying to raise like a 1-year-old. Like, I think about it, I wasn't a great kid growing up. So, they say, you're always going to have a kid that you're going to pay everything you did as a young kid, right? I'm like, could I picture myself being, say I had a kid at 40, being 55, chasing around this kid who's trying to be a little badass on the street? It's not It's not happening.
It's different. And you know what? You're not going to understand either kind of their life, you know what I mean? Because you're so far of age, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like my kids could come up to me and talk to me about a lot of things and understand that I'm going to understand as well. And here's another thing too. You know what drives you when you're a young parent? That drives you because you know what? Now you have another life that you're responsible for.
Absolutely.
And you know what? And you want to set examples. I always said to myself, when my ex was pregnant with my older son, Gio, I said to myself, all right, this kid's going to grow up. I said, I want to be a good role model for him. I said, yeah, I was close to quitting school and not getting my degree. But I said, look, when he grows up, I don't want him to say, well, you didn't go to school. Well, you didn't get your education. Yep. I don't want them to throw it in my face. So guess what? I pushed through it. She pushed through it. We both got our degrees, and the kids can never say, hey, well, you didn't go to school. And again, school isn't for everyone. I'm not saying that that's the thing. Everyone's going to pick their path. But at the end of the day, I try to give my kids options. I said, that's an option to have. Now, this is one thing about sports that I always say. I don't push my kids to be professional athletes, right?
Right.
Because to become a professional, it has to be in you, But there's so many opportunities out there for college, you know what I mean, to get a free education. And that's one thing that I always told my kids. I push you guys because you guys love the sport. But not only that, it gets you a free education possibly, or a discount in a sense. You know what I mean? Because it's expensive. It took me 7 years to finish paying my student loans and all that stuff. That's not something that I wanted for my kids. You
could tell them to join the military.
And that's another thing. And that's the route that you took. Am I correct?
I took the route. That was, a lot of people have this misconception that everyone joins because they want to serve their country. It's far from the truth. I think only I'm going to take a guess, maybe 20% of the people who join the military join because they want to serve. I think most people join because of the benefits that come with joining the military. I think the military targets a lot of, people say like us in certain situations because we feel like almost it's like a way out. But it's a very difficult way out. It's not easy. Yes, you can get college paid for. Yes, you get a guaranteed check, place to live. But it sucks to be away from your family for, months on end. And then Lord knows, depending if we're at war right now, we're technically not. So nobody's worried that they're going to deploy. But back when I joined, it was guaranteed I'm going to go overseas. I was ready for that, but it's not easy. It's not. It's not an easy paycheck. But that being said, you're a business owner, right?
Yes.
I think I've gotten to know you a little bit over the season. And I know you got your own business, right? Fantastic. You graduated from college. You got your degree. Talk to me about, what pushed you to become a business owner.
Well, I got my degree in business, okay? And to me, I had a lot of great jobs, great opportunities, great starting careers and everything like that. But it was a point where I was going through my divorce, you know what I mean? And the job that I had was a little bit more, it wasn't as lenient, you know what I mean, that I needed them to. So when I had my kids every other weekend, some of the weekends that I had my kids, I was stuck working. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want to deal with that. You know what I mean? So I went from one job to another job. And what I do is we provide inventory for convenience stores in the Chicago market, some Indiana and some Wisconsin. So we go to the stores, we count their inventory, we see what their profit and loss is. You know what I mean? And I was in charge of the Chicago district for a company that used to handle Walmart's, Targets. I mean, if you think about it, everyone's gone to a Walmart or Target. You know what I mean? It's big stores, right? So we would go in with like 100 people to go do the inventory. But again, sometimes it's nights, sometimes it's weekends, sometimes it's in the morning.
I didn't even think about that.
No, it's insane. You know what I mean? And, you know, I was going through a personal issue with, you know, my divorce and everything like that. And I looked for another career. Okay. From there, I got another inventory job with another inventory company, but that only did 7-Elevens and BPs, just gas stations, you know, Monday through Friday. I'm like, I could deal with this. But it got to a point where, guess what happens? BP sells off their stores to franchisees and we lose business there. 7-Eleven went with a bigger company and I was literally out of a job. You know what I mean? So I said, you know what? It's fine because I have a degree. I'm going to go find another job. But I got a phone call from one of my customers and they're like, hey, Alex, you know, I want to schedule the inventory with you. And I said, look, I don't work for that company anymore, you know? And they said, you know what? I have 4 stores that I could start you off with. And at that time, I'm like, you know, I was collecting unemployment, a couple $100 here and there. It's not going to hurt and stuff like that. Obviously, you have to make sure you claim it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, you know, I'm like,
IRS?
Yeah,
IRS. Did not hear that.
But, you know, he goes, all right, here's 4 stores, you know. He goes, invest the money in the equipment and do all that. So I said, fine, you know, it's going to pay off. It went from 4 stores to 10 stores to 15 stores. And that's when I said, you know what? I either have to make a decision, either go all in, or guess what? Look for another job and then just have that as my side gig.
Right.
But you always have to bet on yourself. You know what I mean? I always said to myself, I have kids that I have to worry about. I'm not going to fail at this, right? So I ended up getting a tax ID. I ended up doing all that stuff. And now we do about 230 stores a month. You know what I mean? I have, 7 employees working under me. And it's not easy. You know what I mean? It's not easy. But I appreciate me betting on myself. And for anybody that's interested in opening up a business in any way, shape or form, have confidence and believe in yourself, because that's one thing that holds people back is not believing in yourself and what you can do. You know, just bet on yourself. No one else will. You're going to bet on yourself and you're going to win. You're going to be ahead.
I definitely, I mean, I'm a business owner myself. And although I'm not fully in, like it is regardless very, very a nerve-wracking thing to know. Like, hey, my business is taking off, so at some point I'm gonna have to make a decision, and it's one of those, like, you know, you have to take a leap of faith. Yes. I think I'm personally, I think I'm getting at that point, and when it's push comes to, you know, pull, I'm gonna take the leap. I'm gonna jump because, like you said, I'm gonna believe in myself that I'm gonna trust that I know I have the knowledge, and if I don't have the knowledge, I'm going to gain the knowledge, you know, to be successful.
But you got to look at it like this too, right? This is why I stress education, right? So let's just say it wouldn't have panned out for me. My business wouldn't have worked. I have a degree to fall back on and get back in the corporate world if I need to. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, I said, I didn't want that. I like having the flexibility of going out, seeing my kids, you know, play sports, they go out of town. And mind you, like I said before, baseball's been around my family for years, you know, and my kids play travel sports, and it's like going to this state, that state, and it's a lot of fun. But that's the stuff that I couldn't miss, because when you work for a corporate company, what do they give you? A week, 2 weeks paid vacation sometimes? And sometimes you just can't take it, you know, depending on the season and stuff like that, you know. So I appreciate that because it made me enjoy some of the time with my kids, you know.
Yeah. So when you make the decision, how nervous were you? I mean, you had kids, you know, and ultimately that's the goal, right? We have to take care of them. So like you make that decision to leave, quote unquote, your 9 to 5, right? And say, I'm going to go all in my business, you know, and hopes that it's going to be successful. How was that?
I was worried. I had sleepless nights. I'm not going to lie, because you know, you have a steady paycheck every pay period, right? And then you start realizing you don't have that. You don't have the benefits. You don't have all that stuff. But at the end of the day, I had some money aside. I'm not one that likes spending money or anything like that, you know? So I had money aside. So I said, if it gets rough, which it is in the beginning, you know what I mean? I have this to fall back on. So there was times, I'm running my business, taking care of my kids, and you're constantly going on your mobile app to see how much money you have in your account. You know what I mean? And seeing like, oh, you know what? I might have to hold back and pay this bill for next week or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to lie. I mean, here, it's not a secret, man. But, I filed bankruptcy. You know what I mean? I had to. You know what I mean? And this was before my business because I'm like, you know what? I went through a divorce, a separation. I had a house and I was paying for a house by myself that I couldn't afford anymore. You know what I mean? And everything felt like I needed help. You know what I mean? And bankruptcy is not a shame thing. It's there to help you. You know what I mean? And I think if I didn't have that, you know what I mean, I would probably still be stuck working a 9 to 5 and be unhappy and stuff like that. But I'm happy with what I did. Stuff like that, all those tough times that you go through makes you stronger, I think, and makes you appreciate all the good stuff,
Absolutely. It's crazy that I hear you say it's like, that you're happier. Mm-hmm. Like, I think a lot of people, don't understand that, when you work for someone else, you can be happy. I mean, I have my 9 to 5 and I love it. I really do love it. I enjoy it. But there is a satisfaction that you get when it's your business and you're being just as good, in your personal business, that gives it the edge. And to those people who are not happy with their jobs, like, maybe explore what are you good at, because I think a lot of people, they don't know what to even start a business in. For me, I'll give you an example. I'm a photographer, right? It was one of those things that for me, I picked up a camera one day. It's a hobby, stress reliever, something creative, something to do. And instantly I noticed that I was okay. I'm going to not say I'm this amazing photographer. I definitely a lot of artists out there that I think like, oh my God, their work is phenomenal. But I knew that there was something was different with my photography. So flash forward, down the line, I had this conversation with somebody and they told me like, ever thought about opening up a business in photography? And honestly, it never even popped in my head. And they're like, Edgar, your work is phenomenal. I would hire you. I hire people to do what you do and I pay them very, very well. And I thought to myself, I, sat down and I was like, man, like, got all this money invested in photography equipment. I'm already doing it. It's going to be hard, but let's see where it goes. Let's just see. I felt in that moment that I have a steady paycheck, so I don't have to, worry too much about making that leap. But I'm still going to give it all. And, here we are. I think I have my LLC now for give or take 5 years, I think 5 or 6 years. And I've grown myself. I've seen where I started off to where I am now. Like back then I was just shooting models. Mm-hmm. I think that's most photographers, they shoot models because it's the easiest thing to shoot. And you get to learn a lot. But then from there I moved on to like weddings and quinceañeras. And then ultimately when I met you, sports photography was something I'd never done. Never. It's like, let's give that a try. And I think the first time I went and shot, when I look back, I'm like, man, those photos are horrible. But I look at them now and I'm like, wow, like, holy shit, holy crap. Sorry, let's not curse, but holy crap. I've like literally, like, I've improved so much. And obviously there's teams there that, appreciate my work and they're willing to hire me to do that. So, it kind of reinforces that. But like you said, I think at some point I'm also, aware that I'm going to reach that crossroad. I'm like, all right, I need to decide, am I going to do this full time or am I not? Am I going to continue to keep this on the side? And I think nowadays with how the job market is, if you can bank on yourself and you can make a living out of yourself, like no one's going to lay you off. If you see your business slowing down, right? What do? Work harder.
But see, and here's another thing. There's so many different ways of making money, right? I've always even said, even to this day, nothing's guaranteed, right? So I try to build relationships with people. And some of these people that I've dealt with over 12 years, I've known them when they were just cashiers or assistant managers or store managers. Now they're corporate people. You know what I mean? So when you build that relationship and you have great quality work, they're not going to go anywhere else, as long as you keep providing that. But here's one thing too, you did it as a passion. You know what I mean? And a lot of people, I remember when you first started, They're like, oh, the Orioles have their own photographer. You know what I mean? Because you were constantly going to the games, right?
Right.
But it wasn't the case. You know what I mean? I supported your work.
Right.
And my team support your work. You know, they always, okay, you know what? You would put something up there and then we would say, shout out to Second City, right?
Right.
And now it's like, think about it. There's people out there that start waiting, or they wait until Monday, see what's up there, right? And then when you don't have nothing posted on their team, hey, what about our team? They start questioning it, right?
Right.
Well, you got to pay for it too. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, guess what? You've already made a name for yourself, at least in the Blue Island League. You know what I mean? As far as having good quality work. And your pricing is great too. You know what I mean? And you're always going to have our support. You know what I mean? And we appreciate everything that you've done for us this past year. And hopefully it continues, man.
No, I mean, you guys were amazing meeting you guys and seeing you guys through the journey. I wanted you guys to win the championship. I'm not going to lie. I was very, very biased. I was like, yep, you can tell who I am rooting for, you know, when I was out there. Likewise, when I just took this trip to Arizona, you can't help but get, you know, attached to the team you're following, you know, game after game, and seeing the dedication that they put into their into their game, into their being better and trying to win. So that being said, you played sports when you were younger, right?
Yes.
How do you think that playing sports, you know, affected you now as an adult? Do you think you would still make the same decisions now had you never played sports, or you think it's easier to make certain decisions because of you know, some of the stuff that we experience as a person who plays sports?
I think sports played a big factor on the person I am. You know, I think it builds relationships because, I mean, it's not kids nowadays. They have a phone, they have their tablet, they have all that stuff. They just want to be home, not do nothing. When we grew up, we're gonna go outside. I remember getting out of school 2:30, 3 o'clock. You know, I grew up in Cicero. You know, born and raised in born in a little village, and when, you know, I got about 10, 11 years old, we moved to Cicero. You know,
it's little village still.
Well, here's the thing. I have an older brother, and let's just say that he was in a situation where it wasn't good for him. You know what I mean? So we moved to Cicero, and from there, you know, we had our group of friends and stuff like that. And man, I used to love it. We get out of school 2, 3 o'clock, and guess what? Let's get some bats, let's get some baseballs, let's get some gloves, and we'll go to the school, the park, and we'll play till 9 o'clock at night and then go home. And it was like that every day. The only time we weren't able to do that is when summer baseball came and then everyone had his team, but we would always make time to go out. And it was like that every single day. And what did that help build? Friendships. You know what I mean? It helped with your social skills. And that's why my kids sometimes are like, Dad, why do you always joke with everybody? Why do you talk to everybody? That's just me. You know what I mean? You never know the person you're going to run across. Right. You know what I mean? And it could be somebody that you probably need, you know what I mean, in your life. And I tell my kids, that's what sports did. Now, if sports wasn't there for me, who knows? Maybe I'll be 300 pounds. Maybe I'll be in a gang and stuff like that. Because anybody that grew up in areas like that, Cicero, Chicago, and stuff like that, there's so much temptation out there. You know what I mean? I'm fortunate enough to have strict parents. You know what I mean? So my father would say, look, he would literally go to the school to make sure I'm walking home, going back, you know, walking home, walking to school. And it was embarrassing sometimes. Like, I remember my dad, I was a sophomore in high school, and we literally lived 2 blocks away from Morton East High School where I graduated. And he knew when the bell rang, you know. So we would get out of school, and he's there riding his bike. And he would say, Alex, get home. And some of my friends would be like, who's that guy? I said, I don't know the guy. He goes, but he called you for your day, you know. Some guys knew it was my dad. Right, I'm like, man, that's so embarrassing, you know. But now, as an adult, you appreciate that stuff because you're like, wow, if he wasn't there, where would I be? You know what I mean? But sports, again, that's why I still do it, man. That's why I'm glad my kids do it. You know what I mean? That's why I've coached. That's why I've been around this so much, because it teaches you a lot of life lessons. And I think it's something that more people have to kind of play. You know, more not just baseball, just sports in general. You know what I mean? Because the problem is this technology is affecting kids nowadays, you know?
Yeah, I think so. Like, my kids don't play sports, and I've been trying to get them to get into sports, and I just haven't been able to break through to them, which is fine. Sports isn't for everyone. I think as long as you're being competitive in some sort of way, that's all that needs. Because, you know, I think a lot of people nowadays, they want hand-me-outs, right? Nobody wants to work for it. Everybody thinks that you're going to become a millionaire overnight. Or you're going to become a sensation, that you're going to blow up. It just doesn't happen like that.
No.
And I know for myself, you know, in like yourself, you know, being a business owner, everything takes time. And it's called having the resilience to wait, for that reward. Everybody wants an instant reward.
Yes, that's true.
Instant gratification. Instead of, I'm going to work hard now because I know in the long run, this will pay off. Hence, I'm going to put in all the work, all that effort now into growing my business. And I know that eventually it's going to take off. Eventually I'm going to be able to, to say, hey, I got, 5, 10, 20, 30. Now I got 100 different, businesses that I work with. Now I got a full team. You'll continue to work, right?
Of course.
But now you can be a little bit less hands-on versus in the beginning, you're very hands-on, right? You're the one doing all the work. I'm the one that's doing all the photography, but I hope at some point to continue at it so I have a team. Now it's just not me. Now it's a full team doing this. And I think, that resiliency that playing sports, I play basketball. I'm not a baseball player. I love watching you guys play, but I'm not trying to get hit by no 90-mile-an-hour pitch. It's just not my thing. I've seen people get hit on, and I'm like, that's going to leave a bruise. But, I think other people that, my son does debate. And
it's competitive too.
It is. At first, I don't think he thought how competitive, you needed to be dedicated to it. Mm-hmm. He thought he can just show up and that's it. And then I took, almost like I was like, oh, this is my way. I can pick on him now. And now I can be like, okay, did you practice? Did you study? Like, what is the topic? What have you done in your research? What is the next competition going to be about? And then, are you ready? And I think in the beginning he ran. I think he might have gotten like 3rd or 4th place. They got knocked out. And I said, hey, how did it go? And he told me, no, well, we lost. And then, well, why did you guys lose? Like, and he said, it's because that other school was more prepared. And I'm like, what do you mean it was more prepared? Like, yeah, well, it's Whitney Young. That's different than going to, say, my neighborhood school. Like, you know what? Yes, to a degree, yes. Those kids, probably quote unquote have a better education, but you can get a better education anywhere. It's just a matter, you might need to work a little bit hard at it because, the resources aren't there. So, I pushed them and I motivated him that like, hey, you can take the time out of your day. You have an iPad, you have a computer, you're always on this computer playing video games. Why don't you take a moment to just look up whatever the topic is? Is the same topic on it? It's like, no, they give us a topic in the beginning of the year. And that's where we're going to debate. Every single debate tournament, it's going to be about the same topic. So what are you doing? Just get informed. Read. Learn about it so that when you get to that debate, you are knowledgeable. You can cite sources. You can get facts. And then guess what? The moment that he won first place, he was hooked. He was hooked.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Once you win, like anything in sports, once you take that, that first win, you get motivated.
But here's the thing, though. And a parent appreciates another parent that took the steps that you did, right? Because whatever your kids are into, you try to support it and you try to motivate them, right? And this is the problem with kids nowadays, right? They're content, or sometimes the parents are constantly working and there's no attention to what your kids are doing. But if you put a little bit more attention to what's going on with your kids and in their life, you push them. And see, a lot of people, they talk to me sometimes and they're like, man, you're tough on your kids. I said, I'm not going to hand them anything. You know what I mean? Right. My son, Gio, when he decided not to go to school no more, and I'm like, look, you're getting a free education and you don't want to go to school and take advantage of it. Then you're going to go to work. I said, and then you're going to pay your own bills. Now, his mom has a different mindset of it, which, you know what? That's her way of parenting. But anytime my son would ask me for money, he wouldn't ask me for money. He's like, Dad, can I go work with you? And that, because he knows I'm not going to give it to him. And that's the thing. Like, I'll have conversations with my kids. Like, obviously, this is a legacy that I'm building with the baseball team that I have. Yep. With my job or my career, my business. I told Gio, he's my oldest. I said, son, do you ever want to run my business? And the first thing he said to me goes, well, yeah, but I want to do what you do. You know what I mean? I said, listen, you got to learn the business first.
Right.
You know what I mean? And to be honest with you, I'm not going to hand it to you. But if you don't want to, I would rather sell my business than give it to someone that's going to, basically get rid of it and not work hard for it. I'm not going to hand them anything. And I told my kids that. I said, if none of you guys want it, guess what? I'm going to sell it. You know what I mean? And that's a problem with us too as parents nowadays. We try to give our kids something we didn't have. And we give them too much. And then they're spoiled and they don't know how to work for it. Yeah. The satisfaction of working hard for it is what gets you up every day. You're like, man, look at where I'm at. I got a house where I never thought I was going to have a house. You know what I mean? I don't have to worry about paying bills, every day. And I'm grateful for that, but that's a lot because of how I was raised and me pushing myself, making sure that I don't put myself in a bad situation,
Yeah. They always say that like the journey is better than the reward sometimes, right?
Of course, 100%. I agree with you 100%.
Because like once you get it, it's like, what's next?
Yes,
Right?
exactly.
You work so hard to get to this point, and then once you get it, sometimes you're just like, what do I do?
But you know what? I seen something on social media where they asked a billionaire. He goes, "Why is it that you're still a billionaire?" He goes, "You know what? The thing with wealthy people is they don't work a 9 to 5. They're constantly working, putting in the hours. That's why they're still wealthy. If you're content with what you have, you're never going to strive for even better. You know what I mean? When you're content, you never know. You could lose that one account, one big account that pays the majority of your bills. What are you going to do? Just because you were content, now you're in the hole. You cannot be content. You got to keep working hard because you never know what could happen. You know?
Yeah, no, because I think being content is so bad. It's like I once saw this like it's a saying. It kind of goes along the ways of like the moment it's about learning, but it applies the same way. The day you stop learning is the day you start to die.
Yeah, I heard
right,
that,
because you're no longer growing. So if that's your pinnacle, if that's like, you know what, that's it. I'm okay with what I have. I'm okay with where I am in life, with business, home, whatever it is. I'm content. That's it. What's after that? It's just a downhill, right?
But see, and it doesn't have to be that business. You know what I mean? Like for me, I have my business, great. But guess what? I'm still trying to make money and trying to do different ventures, right?
Right.
Like real estate. You know what I mean? Get into real estate, start owning more properties and stuff like that, renting them out. My cousin, who's also one of our biggest sponsors, has a trucking company. You know what I mean? And he says invest on semi trucks. You know what I mean? Buy 2, we'll get the drivers, and you'll have a steady income with just not doing anything.
That is true. I know plenty of people who just buy trucks. They don't drive them themselves. They don't even have a CDL for that matter.
Exactly.
They just buy them, find a driver, get a route.
You split a 50-50 and you're good.
And that's it. And it's crazy. You know, the opportunity is out there for anyone who wants to take an opportunity, you know. It's just a matter of them wanting it, right? Because nothing's going to come land on your lap.
Exactly.
Like the whole point of this podcast is to share our knowledge, share our experience for the youth to, you know, hear it and want to apply it themselves. But ultimately, you can listen to this podcast. We're about 40 minutes and you can listen like, man, I can do it. But if you yourself don't apply some of the things we're teaching you, we're talking about, it's not going to land on your lap. It's not going to,
and it's not going to be easy. You're going to have your bumps. You know what I mean? But you have to be able to say, you know what, it's just a bump on the road and continue doing it. You cannot give up. That's the problem. If you give up, you're not going to see that reward. You know what I mean? And you're setting yourself up for failure. You know what I mean? Don't set yourself up for failure, man. Just bet on yourself, man.
So it's and then that leads to another topic, which is the team. Going back to the baseball team, you know, it's just like, you know,
which one? I mean, the Orioles or my youth team? Because now, oh my God, coaching softball is another thing too. But go ahead.
Oh, you're softball, man. Yeah, I didn't know about softball. Can I join the softball team?
Well, it's my daughter. You know what I mean? It's youth. I mean, go back to your question. I'm sorry.
You know, just hijacking the podcast.
I know,
here,
right? And now, no, I'm just kidding.
But you know, going back and you know, being able to be resilient. I know I got to see your team, you know, get on a good stride, and then something I noticed that some players on the team, when you guys start to lose or something goes bad, they kind of just tilt their head down. And talk to me about how frustrating that probably is to you as a coach, trying to coach young men, right? Because I mean, it's an adult league, with the exception of your kids and maybe a couple of other people who are, you know, borderline 18 years old. How hard is it, you know, to try and teach somebody, hey, pick your chin up, you know, and move forward? Yeah, we might take an L today, but we got tomorrow, and we need to still be able to come in tomorrow with your head up high, thinking I'm going to win.
Well, here's the thing, right? Ever since we became part of this league, you know what I mean? I've always had a young team, and that's because I have a lot of resources, right? From coaching a lot of travel sports, I've seen a lot of these kids play since they were 9, 10, 11 years old. So a lot of people are trying to like, oh, recruit them, come to my team. I always give them the option to go. Now, other teams are run differently, right? Me and my brother always run this team like we pay for everything. We get sponsors. We do everything. All we ask is for you guys to show up, right? And the problem with having a young team is they don't understand sometimes accountability, right? So the issue that we had this year, right, that I feel is people just didn't show up. I mean, here's the thing. People are not as accountable when they don't have money invested in it either. You know what I mean? So is that our fault? Yes. But you know what? We're doing it for a passion. And honestly, I think we should have at least had one championship in the last 3 years. You know, on paper, we're like the Yankees. You know, on paper, man, we're one of the best teams. But it's getting to the championship is winning it, you know? And this year, I think we were built differently. These guys understand the game. You know what I mean? But I think, and you were there at some of the games, I think what drove a lot of those guys to make a push in the playoffs, seeing me play, seeing my brother having to play, us being half injured and still pulling out the wins, it was just a different outcome. You know what I mean? At the end, you know, we lost against the Nationals. They're a great team and everything like that. But I felt like if we would have had our full squad from the get-go, we would have probably been in the championship. And that's last year and the year before that. But, you know, there's no excuses. That's how baseball is. And that's what's so great about this sport. But as far as keeping their heads up, man, it's just some players are built differently. And you try to motivate them as much as possible. And this is why it's different with adults versus kids. When you're coaching young adults that are under the age of 17, it's like they take it more seriously because they're more motivated.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They push themselves more. When they're adults, it's more like, okay, it's like professionals, right? Making millions of dollars and stuff like that. I'm like, I'm already making my money.
I'm already set in my ways.
Exactly.
I've kind of been there. Like, it's okay. I'm just doing this for fun, you know, but you still got to want it.
No, of course. And you know what? And here's where I felt where our team was, right? They wanted it. But when they see, oh, this person's not coming. Oh, this person's not coming. Then their confidence just diminishes. You know what I mean? It's like when we played the Nationals the first game, right? We only had 9 guys, and I was like the 9th guy.
Yeah.
So
should have subbed me in there, coach. I was.
You had your jersey.
I had a jersey. I've been there for enough games to kind of qualify for, you know, to be on the team.
But see, this is what's about. This is good coaching right here. So I knew that, right? So my good old friend Andre Harvey, you know what I mean? He kicked our butts. The Nationals kicked our butts the first game. But I didn't utilize all my strengths in the first game because I said, look, we're going to have to play a doubleheader. We're not going to win them both. We have to win one, right? So we lost the first game by 12, 13 runs. And I'm pretty sure everyone that follows Game Changer, man, you know, the Orioles got beat bad and this and that, right? But guess who won the second game? We did because I put my son to pitch, which at that time he was our best pitcher, you know, that we had. We also utilized some of the other guys and stuff like that. And that helped us win. You know what I mean? So there's a strategy in everything. You know, even you know, the South Side is the game before that, the team that we played before that.
Yep.
The same scenario. They beat us by 10, 12 runs, and everyone's like, man, they kicked the Orioles' butt. But there was a strategy behind it. I'm not going to put all my eggs in one basket in the first game because I know they're going to get tired. We're going to play a doubleheader. We got to win at least one. And they needed to win too. So I'm like, all we needed to do is win one, and we pulled it off. You know what I mean? So it's a lot different. It's strategy, but, you know, these guys, you're right. They have to want it. They have to want it. And that's something that we can't do for them, you know?
But they're I think, to me, though, I think they should still be able to be open-minded, to be like, hey, you're the coach, you know, and, you know, when I was there, I was like, and I tried to motivate the guys by telling them, like, hey, I'm here with you guys, you know, win or lose, I'm here. I'm showing up every day, you know, hey, what time's the game? 10 o'clock. Who's there? I'm not even playing, and I'm showing up. So I told the guys, you know, myself, I'm like, hey, I'm going to try to motivate these guys because I see them hanging their head down. They're something tired. Like, look, man, I'm here with you guys. I'm not playing, but I'm here waking up because I love the team. So show up to the game and give it everything you got. You know, don't be. Oh, there goes the light over there. It ran out of battery. But anyways,
pay your bills, man. Pay your bills.
Right? But anyways, you know, like, hey, you know, be motivated. Stay in the game. Like yeah, so and so didn't show up, but guess what? You only have one thing you can control in that game, and that's you.
Well, I'll be honest though, a lot of that negativity, if anything, comes from my boys, both of my kids. You know what I mean? Gio's always been like that. Or when I have to play, Dad, why are you playing? You know, you shouldn't be playing. But then I'll rip a double and I'll get a hit. But then they still won't give me credit. You know what I mean? But it's just, to them, it's like they go in there with so much motivation, like, okay, we got this team. And then they start hearing this person's not showing up. Now Dad has to play. They're like, they get upset because they're like, they're there every day. You know what I mean? But they have to have a different mindset. And it's like, I think it was Hickey one game that he pitched, and we committed like 3 errors in the first inning.
Right.
And it was against the Southsiders.
I think he got frustrated in the beginning.
Yes.
And
he threw his glove.
Yeah.
I pulled him aside. I said, man, it's the beginning of the game. Relax, dude. I know you're doing your job. Just keep doing your job. You try to keep him motivated. And then we came back, started scoring runs, and we pulled the game. You know what I mean? We got the game. And I told Hickey at the end of the day, you see, I know it's frustrating. And as a pitcher, that's probably the most frustrating position, because when you know you're throwing strikes, you're doing your job, and people commit errors, it's like, what are you going to do?
Right.
But that's your team. You have to pick up your team one way or the other. You know, the year before that, we got eliminated by the Brewers. I mean, it was a situation where my son didn't run out of play, you know what I mean? And they were throwing the ball around and stuff like that. And he would have been safe. And the outcome of that game, we would have won that game and gone to a third game. But because he didn't run that out, it cost us a season. I ripped him a new one, you know what I mean? Like a father should, like a coach should. But at the end of the day, I told him after that year, I said, you know what? If you're not here to play, then don't come to play. Absolutely. And I think he learned, you know what I mean, a little bit, but he still has his moments, you know?
Yeah, because you have to give it your all every single time. To me, it's like, it doesn't matter, you know, if it's going to be an out at first right away. Like, you go, right? Hustle, run for it, because like, you never know. The other team throws the ball, goes overhead, you know, it's like, you got on base. But, you know, I've seen, even in Arizona, I saw some players just, not the team I was following as a whole, but just as in general at the tournament, that they were just like, you know, they call it quits. And then guess what? The team commits an error. And I'm like, damn, you would have been on first base had you just ran to it. Yeah. I'm like, you're there to play the game, give it everything you got until the ninth inning, until the game, you know, the whistle blows, you know, so to speak, like until the game is done, you give it everything you got, because you don't ever want to look back and be like, man, you know, had I ran on that play, we probably would have, you know, gone to game 3.
Well, here's the thing. That's what separates good players from great players. Okay. So I could consider my kids good players. I don't think they're great players, because if they live and breathe this sport, they would have put in the work and they would have been somewhere else. You know, Giovanni as a sophomore, and I'm not blaming it on my divorce, but he had a couple D1 offers that are looking for him. D1 as a sophomore, you know what I mean? But, you know, him and his mom and I went through some stuff, you know what I mean? And then there was no motivation anymore, right? Then I wasn't home. So I was like, hey, are you going to the gym? Are you putting in your work? Right. So he wasn't, you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, that's when you have talented kids that just don't put in the work. If you look at any D1 player, okay, and I know a couple D1 players, some kids that my son played with that are in the minor leagues and D1 schools and everything like that, you would see some of their Instagram, some of their posts. They get out of school and they go train. They're done training, they go home, go to school, train. They're training every single day.
Yeah.
Those are the guys that want it. You know what I mean? But you have other guys that might be better, you know, at a certain point, but they're the ones putting in the work, and they're going to achieve their goal. You know what I mean? And that's the difference. And that's the thing. You have a lot of people, even in this league, you know, that are good players, but you know what? They don't care as much as others do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would rather be a decent player and give it my all than a great player or a good player that doesn't care. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to let anybody down, you know?
Yeah, I've definitely seen some people, some of the players that play in the league that I'm like, holy crap, like they're like phenomenal. But then, like you said, if I follow them, I go on their Instagram and I can see like they live and breathe baseball. I mean, they're in that gym, get out of work, they're in the gym working out, working on their swing, whatever it is, but they're dedicated to it. And it shows, you know, when they play, they're, you know, sadly to say, they're the team that makes it to the finals because they got the most players committed to the team, where they're like, hey, we're going to go practice. You know, like it takes time out of my day to go, you know, give it an hour, 2 hours out of practice, you know, but you got to want it. Even to me, even Blue Island, small league, you know, whatever the price is, if it's just a trophy, nonetheless, like to me, I'm competitive. I'm going to give it everything I got. You know, because I just want to win. I don't like to lose. Nobody likes to lose. It's a part of life to lose, but it's not an enjoyable feeling. I think once you taste that, you know, that loss the first time, like, I don't ever want to feel that again.
Right. Yeah.
You know, but then the same thing, once you get a taste of almost of winning, getting close to it, it should push you to want it more. You know, the way I hope the next year, come next season, that depending on how your team shapes out, that if most of the guys are there from last year, I hope they look back and say, you know what, last year we got to this point and we were hurting.
Yes.
We were hurting. So you know what do I have to do to stay healthy? Because I know that if I can stay healthy, that I can help my team more, and I know we can get further. Because you guys got so close. I mean, to me, I think minus the injuries and yes, a few players that just did not show. Sadly to say, if you move those players and the other people can stay healthy and pick up a few more people, I mean, you guys can win it.
See, we got as far as we did with Hart. Absolutely. You would see some of the games, they're hobbling their first base, first baseman, Hector. Then you had my second baseman, also Rolando. Yeah. The Venezolano. He was hurt, but they pulled it off, man. We were playing hurt and people playing in positions that they normally don't because the heart is what got them there. And I'm pretty sure a lot of my players are thinking like, wow, we got this far. They're not discrediting any team, but they're like, we got this far with injuries, with the way we were. Imagine if we would have had everybody. And that's where the frustration comes into play too. Because even me and my brother, we talked about it. The first year we came into this, we got a lot of college players. But guess what happens? During the playoffs, we lose some of our college players, because they're out in college already, right? So we're like, okay, we're going to do more of a veteran presence, leadership. We did that, and they're the ones that let us down this year, Yeah. This person didn't show up, that person didn't show up. I'm like, Jesus Christ. So it's like there has to be a balance. The thing that makes a lot of these teams successful is the chemistry, and you have guys that are willing to show up. The reason why we're there is because I have one of the younger teams, and we have talent. You know what I mean? But talent only takes you so far. Right. Some of these teams are winning because they have the will to win, Yep. And that's one thing that we lack,
Well, one last question. I just want to know, why the Orioles? Where did that come from?
So, to be honest with you, anybody that knows me, when we came to Blue Island, we were the Phillies.
The Phillies, okay.
The Phillies. Awesome jersey, baby blue with the red lettering, right? And we have another brother. Me and Juan have a younger brother. So we decided to bring this team into the organization. See, we had a fallout with my younger brother. My younger brother is very talented, but hard-headed, want things done his way. Yeah. So we got to a point and we said, you know what? You do whatever you want to do. So after that year, we decided to start a team. Me and my brother, and my younger brother, Henry, was going to stay with the Phillies. Okay. Unfortunately, that didn't pan out. But when we were going over some teams, I wanted the Padres just because of the jerseys.
Really?
The brown jerseys with the yellow. And at that time, there was already a team by the name of the Padres. Okay. So we weren't able to bring them in there. You know what I mean? So I'm like, all right, what's another team? So me and my brother got together and we just started liking the jerseys. I like the white ones. You know what I mean? I also like the logo of the Orioles. Yeah. So I'm like, it's just like vintage. I wanted the Expos, but the Expos, they were there. You know what I mean? There, yeah. I was just basing it on the vintage uniform. You know what I mean? And you seen the white ones, the pink ones that we have. No, anybody that hasn't seen them, watch next year or this upcoming year. They're awesome, and I'm gonna have one especially for you. You know what I mean? So it's a great.
I gotta keep for all the teams. If I get any more jerseys, hopefully I do. I like collecting jerseys, FYI. So if you come on the podcast and you're in the team, bring me a jersey, please.
Well deserved. I mean, you guys got to look at some of the work that he did. You know what I mean? You did great work with every team.
Thank you. But like the Orioles, to me, like the colors are nice, and then when you show me those jerseys, sadly to say, what happened to them. Yeah. But I'm excited. You guys are a great team, great name. The Orioles themselves, look at how far they actually did in MLB. Yeah. Sad to say that they lost where they lost, but hey, that's a conversation for a different day. Other than that, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I hope to welcome you again in the future for another episode. This is episode 1. But we'll see down the road when we bring you back. We do this again, maybe touch a few topics that we didn't touch.
Youth sports, how that goes. You know what I mean? Yeah, that'd be a nice topic.
So, but hey, there's only so much time we got. We've already been here for 54 minutes and an hour. Most of you guys probably won't see the full hour. You guys might see little small snippets, but if you guys go on my YouTube channel, you guys can see the full video there. And we'll hope to bring you back, Alex, in the future again for another episode. Maybe bring in your son next time, and we'll talk to him, get a third microphone here, see how he feels about some of these things here. But again, thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. All right, Edgar.